Hello, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. My name is Riaz Ahmed. I'm an English lecturer at a college in London, an English teacher at different levels, an examiner at AQA and at Excel. I'm also a teacher of Quranic Arabic through an online platform, and also I'm a student of science, philosophy and theology. Today I'd like to present a very interesting topic, which is a burning question, or the burning questions in the society that has been haunting me for quite a long years. Then I'm going to present today, inshallah. Hope you'll stay tuning in and also subscribe my channel, also share my videos, and do not forget to leave your comments where you agree or disagree, you differ, what you have any opinion to add. Please feel free to do that. Today's episode is about what atheism actually claims, and not what you are told. Atheism should be defined in the first place. We need to know the definition of a concept or an idea or a theory in the first place to be able to know better or deeper into the topic. So what is atheism? Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary says the belief that God does not exist is atheism. An opposite of it, antonym of it, is theism. So it means the belief that God exists. Let's go to check a dictionary from atheism. What is atheism? The dictionary of philosophy, Oxford Dictionary of Philosophy, says atheism is disbelief in or denial of the existence of God. Very interesting. In the first slide you saw that atheism is a belief. Just note it down. It's a belief. And here you can see it's a disbelief. See, again, in both cases, it involves belief, although atheism is something that does not believe. Very interesting. Let's move on. In Arabic, ilhad, it's called ilhad, to deviate in religion. Ilhadun anid-deen, to incline away from the true path, from truth. So ilhad means deviation. It's Al-Abul Manzur writes in his Lisan al-Arabiyya. Then classical atheism versus new atheism. If you look through the history, the evolution of atheism, you see that it has two parts. One is classical atheism, one is new atheism that has started in the beginning of this century. New atheism. Inshallah, we will try to have a light on them, because we need to know both types of atheism, how they differ in terms of their characteristics and features, also their logical propositions. We'll be able to know all these things. So, classical atheism versus new atheism. Classical atheism is academic and philosophical one. New atheism is media-driven. So if you look at all the classical atheists, go far from the time of Aristotle, Socrates, Plato. I'm not saying they're atheists. There are more theists than atheists. But after that, when the trend of atheism came to an end and it took a turn towards a new atheism via the four horsemen of atheism, new atheism, we will come to know them, inshallah. So then you see how the difference is coming between these two types of atheism. One is classical atheism or traditional atheism, which is academic and philosophical. On the other hand, the new atheism is media driven. And then classical atheism is limited public engagement, because they did not have access to media. When I am, for example, able to reach hundreds and thousands of people through media. At that time, it was quite difficult for a person to reach even 100 people via any seminar or anything, any conference. It would be quite difficult. So that's the media. It's media driven now. And then aggressive criticism of religion. The current new atheism is too much aggressive towards the criticism of religion. However, this has also two perspectives. One is Western perspective, and the other one is Eastern, or you can say Asian perspective. So there are two perspectives. In terms of Western perspectives, it's more intellectual than Asian perspectives. In Asian perspective, if you go to the atheists of Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, especially Bangladesh, you see that lots of atheists, they are quite unaware of what atheism is. Forget about they know religion, which they are differing or opposing. So they are not even aware of the thing they are dealing with, or they claim that they are atheists. So in the Eastern perspective, in the Western perspective, you can see the atheists are really intellectual. They study, they come for debate, and they try to present their ideas and their concepts and their arguments in a very formal way, rather than an atheist does in Asian context. And it literally emerges this new atheism, we'll come to know in the coming slides, post 9/11 context, when in 2001 the Twin Towers were affected, were attacked by terrorist attacks. They called so-called terrorist attacks, although it's been proven through lots of studies that these are actually inside business. So there was a study done by 75 Harvard University professors and lecturers who came to the conclusion that it was actually an inside job. So however, I'm not going to that point at this moment. I will come to the point once I need it. So let's move on. We see that these are the four horsemen of new atheism. They are the ones who have given atheism an institutional shape. So these are Richard Dawkins from the top left. It goes like clockwise. Then Christopher Hitchens. Then Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett. We need to be aware of these four horsemen to be able to understand what atheism actually is now in our society, in our time. So then comes first is Richard Dawkins. What he claims that belief in God is a failed scientific hypothesis. And he also focuses on evolution and natural selection. That was left by his predecessor, Darwin, in his On Origin of the Species, on natural selection. So Richard Dawkins has been working on that. He is an evolutionary biologist, zoologist, science communicator, and author. He has a TV channel. He has authored lots of books, and one of the famous books is The God Delusion. The second one is Sam Harris. Sam Harris argues that morality can be grounded in neuroscience. He's a neuroscientist. Sam Harris was born in 1967, is still alive, and the previous one, Richard Dawkins, is also alive, and Richard Dawkins was born in 1949. Sam Harris was born in 1967. So what Sam Harris is a zoologist, and also he is a psychologist. He tries to present atheism with spirituality without religion. He has this kind of meditational presentations and approaches designed. Literally, he has come up with this idea. So we'll go deep into that later on in our upcoming episodes. Next one is Christopher Hitchens, was born in 1949, died in 2011, was a British and American author and journalist. He says openly anti-theist, his argument is. He's anti-theist, it means he's not directly atheist. He believes in some of the concepts of theism. However, he mostly differs with the core ideas of theism, or ideas of believing in the existence of God. Argues religion poisons society and suppresses freedom. They literally argues about the structural religion institutions in the world, current modern world. So his famous work is God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything. So one of his famous works is Hitchens Razors. That sounds really, it connotes some kind of, cutting edges, some kind of really lethal attacks. So that lethal attacks is metaphorically and symbolically, definitely. What can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Why he says that the existence of God cannot be evidenced, cannot be presented with evidence. Therefore, it does not need evidence to dismiss it, which is really smart. However, we're coming to the points with all these nonsense arguments and nonsense concepts. Let's move on. The last one of the four horsemen. He is Daniel Dennett and was born in 1942. Was an American philosopher and cognitive scientist. His research centered on the philosophy of mind, the philosophy of science, and the philosophy of biology, particularly as those fields relate to evolutionary biology and cognitive science. So he says that studies religion as a natural evolved phenomenon. This is a less polemical, more academic. Now, Islamic scholarly responses on those evolutionary ideas, on those atheists who have come to a new concept of new atheism. Now we can see that in Islamic way, Islamic scholars like Imam al-Ghazali rahmahullah in the 11th century, Ghazali says the reason has limits, which is very obvious. You even sometimes logical proposition or reasoning does not make sense. For example, if you say according to logical proposition, my hand is on the table and the table is on the ground or on the floor, on the carpet, therefore my hand is on the carpet. So syllogistically, if you go to say the syllogism, syllogistically, this is how come you come to first premise is my hand is on the table, second premise is the table is on the ground, and third premise is therefore my hand is on the ground. So logically, actually, in the real sense, my hand is not on the ground. So this the reasoning has limitations. So revelation completes knowledge. He says what comes to the point that people cannot explain or describe anything through science or through observable tools, so they have to take resort to metaphysics, which is theology. So next comes is Ibn Taymiyyah has great work on that, and he said sound reason never contradicts revelation. Ibn Taymiyyah comes to that point. Sound reason never contradicts revelation. He has a great work on that. Dar'u ta'arid al-aql wal-naql. He is presenting the تعارض العقل والنقل, the reasoning and revelation and reasoning and revelation. So in our olden time, the first claim that was made by Bertrand Russell, he was born in 1872, that is nearly the end of, you can say, the end phase of the traditional atheism. We don't actually quite ignore the traditional atheism, but we are taking consideration of new atheism because they have come violently and you can say in a vigorous way. So they are militant atheists. That's why we have taken them into more consideration than the older or traditional atheists. So Bertrand Russell was a British philosopher, logician, mathematician, and a public intellectual personality. He says there is no God. Russell said, do not believe in God. In his lots of famous "Why I'm Not a Christian" is one of his famous works. So religion is irrational and harmful. This is another of his famous quotes. He says religion is something left over from the infancy of our intelligence. I will come to tell you more about Bertrand Russell's contradictions about religion. He has some contradictory arguments or concepts. Inshallah, I will quote them in my coming videos. Keep an eye. So, what are more the claims? So these two doyen atheists, two of the four horsemen, one of them, Richard Dawkins, argues that I'm against religion because it teaches us to be satisfied with not understanding the world. So who doesn't know what Quran comes up with? In this age of technology, AI, anybody, even Richard Dawkins has also by this time known a lot of presentation of the Quran about embryology, about neuroscience, about human body, about biology. Biology is the one which is his subject, and Quran pinpoints on very astounding issues. Quran has presented astounding things and ideas Quran presented about science and biology, which are really mind-blowing. So there's no point to say that without not understanding the world. So how is it possible? Doesn't make sense. We'll come to those points afterwards. I'm trying to, in the first place, present you with all the basic ideas and basic foundational people who work on the neo-atheism and all the atheistic ideas. So you get familiar with them, and in my coming episodes, when I present them, you don't find them very difficult or unfamiliar. So Richard Dawkins says that Sam Harris says that we are free to make our own moral choices. So Sam Harris is the one who claims that you don't need religion, you don't need God to be a moral person in the society. For morality, you don't need religion, you don't need a divinity or God. What atheism actually claims? The question obviously automatically comes. What atheism actually claims? Interesting. Reality is self-existing. So what they say, they want to say that the whole universe through a big bang emerges by itself. So nature has created by itself. So anything creates itself. So what was at the beginning then? It doesn't need to be a scientist, big scientist, or to be a rocket scientist to know what actually was before that. So nothing cannot produce something because it was nothing. So it doesn't make sense. And then second claim is no ultimate purpose, as because there is no one to discipline you, to regulate you, to command you, so there is no ultimate purpose. This is what, end of the day, we come to know from the atheism. So a lot of things you come to know about atheism, you feel like the atheism, the concepts, all concepts, especially the four horsemen who have introduced the new atheism, you feel like really futile and a volatile theory, and you feel like actually atheism violates itself. So is atheism a worldview? It's a very important question. It explains existence. Does it explain existence? It does. However, it does not explain why and what is the purpose. It might explain in one way how, although this explanation is very fragile, and this explanation is, you can say, kind of baseless, because it's quite difficult for you to understand that if you go for a mobile, for example, so sophisticatedly designed, and the mechanism in it so sophisticated, a human eyes, you can say the human eyes are thousands of times sophisticated, more sophisticated than a camera or a mobile phone, and also human DNA cell body. All these are simply mind-blowing. You cannot resist yourself other than thinking that these have been designed. There is a designer behind it. So the worldview, in terms of worldview, being in a worldview, it has to have these kind of basis, which atheism really lacks. So explain morality. It explains morality, like I said, Sam Harris, for example. He says you don't need divinity, you don't need scriptures, you don't need religion, you don't need God to be a moral person. So it tells us that actually it explains, but in a very deluded way. So explains meaning or denies it. Yes, it explains some meanings. However, it denies a lot of things without any foundational knowledge or evidence. So in terms of evidence, is super fragile. So what is worldview? We've just learned that a particular philosophy of life or conception of the world is worldview. For example, a Christian world view revolves around the battle of good and evil. So this atheism is not an acceptable worldview. So there is no neutral position, that either reality is credited or reality is uncaused, and then silence is still a stance. Okay, in this regard, if you say you cannot have a neutral position, that whether you would like to be an atheist or an atheist, you won't have any choice than to be a theist, to believe that there is someone who is a creator, who is the designer of this grand all these creations, all these magnificent creations which Richard Dawkins is working on. And unfortunately, he hasn't got this hidayah, the guidance. Inshallah, Allah says about this idea. Some people might argue on atheism, saying that Quran does not present atheists about any idea about atheism. But you will be astonished knowing that Quran says in verse 35 of Surah At-Tur, chapter 52, Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in, am humul khaliqun. Or were they created by nothing? Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in, they have not been created from anything? Am humul khaliqun, or are they their creators? So this, so clearly Allah is presenting as if Allah is presenting for this time when they claim that it hasn't been created from anything. And Allah is asking them, Am khuliqu min ghayri shay'in. Oh, were they created by nothing? Am humul khaliqun. Or are they their creators? Then who created them? Who created this universe before Big Bang? So before Big Bang is emerged, what was before that? So all these things give us food for thought about the validity of atheism. So this question asked by the Quran, we know three logical possibilities then are left. That created by nothing. The whole universe, all creations are created by nothing, which is not possible. And then it's all self-created, which is quite illogical, and no premises can cover it. That is self-created. And the last one is created by another. The last thing is left is created by another. So which options fail? You understand that which options fail out of these three options? And one option is surviving. It is created by another. We are coming in our upcoming episodes to just explain to you with logics, with philosophy and theology. Keep an eye, as nothing has no power, because nothing cannot create anything. So self-creation is incoherent. You understand that? Only one option remains, and it has been created by Allah, the Almighty. As you call it, God, whatever you call in your own language. And then if they say nature creates itself, then one question is left for the atheists, especially the new atheists, the four horsemen, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens. The nature is the God of nature, because nature created itself. And you believe in it, so you believe in that God. So atheism is your religion. So what atheism must accept? Uncaused reality. So there is something that has no cause. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. If you go and over again, you must go to a contingency concept presented by Ibn Sina. We are coming, inshallah, in our upcoming videos. Keep an eye. There are more interesting features and things remaining for you. And then is this really just non-belief? Lots of questions coming up, strong metaphysical claims coming up, heavy assumptions coming up, faith in brute facts. So last but not least is why Islam is true. The key Islamic argument. Atheism assumes materialism without proof. This is what Allah says in the Quran in Surah Hajj verse 8 to 9. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يُجَادِلُ فِي اللَّهِ بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. There are still some people who dispute, who argue that about Allah. يُجَادِلُ فِي اللَّهِ. They keep debating about Allah, keep arguing about Allah. بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Without any knowledge. وَلَا هُدًى. Any guidance. وَلَا كِتَابٍ مُنِيرٍ. Any enlightened scripture. So they don't have knowledge. They can't present the knowledge. What they present actually, it literally backfires them. Why? They have a purpose actually. What is that? ثَانِيَ عِطُفِيهِ لِيُضِلُّ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. So that they can turn people away from the right path, the path of Allah. لَهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا خِزْيٌ وَلَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ عَذَابٌ حَرِيقٌ. For them remaining in this dunya disgrace, and in akhirah they have torment burning. But I'm not going for that, whether you have torment burning in akhirah. I'm going to tell you that this is the purpose. to keep people deviated away from the path of Allah, from the true path. So God give us the proper guidance. We understand the purpose of life. We understand why God created this beautiful world, the universes. They have so far been revealed, discovered thousands of universes, 50 to 700 universes, multiverses. The idea of multiverses coming up, lots of ideas coming up. 2 trillions of galaxies. Each galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars. So magnificent, so mind-blowing, and you cannot comprehend. All have been created without any designer, any creator, and all of them came from nothing. Keep watching. Do not forget to share and subscribe, and also leave your comment.